Now, interesting thing about the United States, we're still the largest producer of energy in the world. So everybody thinks, oh, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just a political decision on our part. We can open California tomorrow and blow the world apart. We're the largest producer of natural gas in the world. We probably the largest coal reserves in the world. It's all a matter of political will here. So if things get dicey enough and things get expensive enough, they'll dig that stuff out of the ground. I guarantee you.
And good afternoon, everyone. Today, Bob Kudla. We're back for another month of synopsis on what we've seen happen in the past, where we see things moving in the future, going out through the end of the year. It could be the transition of energy, transition of currencies, trade disputes, and what's really going to become valuable as we move through to try to protect your wealth, and also huge opportunities as this shift occurs. It's all encompassing. We all see it. It's everywhere now. So, Bob, appreciate you joining me. TradeLikeAGenius.com.
We're running 7 specials right now. We call them bundles. So stocks, crypto, you can trade futures or options with us, or you can just get training. Those are 65% off. They're already pre-discounted, Dave. And you use promo code August, you get 40% off anything in the store that's not already pre-discounted. But more importantly is really what we do for you. So, our system operates on basically looking at probabilities, and we look at levels, and we look at momentum, basically PLM. And then so we have algorithms and indicators that help us be in the right markets at the right time, doing the right things. And so we actually teach you how to use that system. And then we actually give you access to that system so that you can build your own watch lists if you want. We have chat rooms. And then we also have trades that we give out every day. So we have a pretty all-encompassing service. And you can be in a crypto room, you can be in a stock room, you can be in a VIP room, your choice. And what we charge for the service is nothing compared to what you get out of it. Go to TradeLikeAGenius.com. You have to August 14th to be able to take advantage of the specials and just enjoy what we do, and we'll teach you skills for life. So thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, you never thought you'd have to pay for natural resources on the planet at that level. You always have the illusion, at least, that water is something that comes from the sky if you could capture it and it's free. But we're coming in now. Everything's being more tightly controlled. And they want. I was doing a video just a couple of weeks ago about in California too. They want you to now put a meter on your own well and report to California State that you have a well and how much water you're using if you use more than 1 acre foot per year, and that's on private land, which you just referenced. So anybody that has a well is supposed to self-report, self-bill, and then just send everything to the state. Which I find absurd.
The problem is that the water is not static under that property. So if you have a guy that's pumping the water out, they're draining other wells out. So I understand that problem, but water's always been an issue out here. In Oregon, you can't capture rainwater. Okay. That rainwater falls from the ground, hits your property. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to who owns the water rights. So, you can't do rainwater capture in Oregon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Oregon. You can't do rainwater capture. So you can't burn your property. Has to go into the aquifer, and whoever has access to that water, rights to that water, gets that water.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about, the absurdity of such things. Yeah,
that's 100 years old though, Dave. So water out here has always been a big issue. It's become a really big issue because Nevada and Arizona never took their allocations because in Utah, their populations were too low. But because their populations exploded, they're taking their allocations now, and that's what's causing California such grief. California was basically living off of the excess Colorado. And then Mexico gets an allocation too, by treaty.
But looking out in the future, then what's the next commodity that will be the big issue, do you think? Okay, cobalt. We understand water. Okay, and then next?
Cobalt.
Cobalt.
Yeah. Cobalt. Yeah, so that's why at Trade Genius we own uranium, we own copper. Copper and cobalt get extracted together. Cobalt and silver get extracted together. So I own cobalt silver mine. I own cobalt nickel mine. I own a cobalt. Uh, there's no pure cobalt mine, so but cobalt heavy. So we own these mines, and I mean we own them as traders, not investors. And so, but we are investors. So I guess we own them, but we have positions in them, and so the way we trade, I offer those to people saying these are in buy mode. So yeah, so they're all ready to move now. We're in copper's in a huge deficit right now. Look, they passed the 22 version of the Green New Deal. So you're looking at copper, you're looking at cobalt, you're looking at nickel are the metals that are going to be required, rare earths, and all of them started to move. So that's the money ball on the mining side. And as soon as the Fed can't keep raising rates, then gold and silver will catch up. But that's all I'm doing. That's where I'm focused. And then shipping's been just marvelous. So there's not enough boats around the world. The rates are high. And so we're just raking in money, paying huge dividends. And then oil's going nowhere. Natural gas is going to go up because we are having a situation where it's makes profitable for us to liquefy the natural gas, ship it over to Europe, where we're the largest liquefied natural gas exporter in the world. Bigger than Qatar, bigger than UAE. Ready to hit it. You hit the ground running with us. So, and these are good trades. These are singles and doubles. We're in a sweet spot where we think things are going to go, and we know our system works. We have a track record and really consistent performance.
Now, speaking of the trades, okay, so in the Green New Deal, will there ever be enough cobalt, lithium, copper, and these sort of metals to transition over? I mean, when they're looking at their timelines, it's almost like, oh, we're going to flip a switch and in 2 weeks, everything's going to turn over. Is there even realistic, and how high would the prices go? Because there's not going to be enough physical supply for all the demand in their timelines. So what's the disconnect between the supply and the timeline there?
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is if you own your own home and you can tap into a utility, then owning EV is going to be great, and you may not need a big battery. So I think you're going to see cars with different, like, hey, I got a scooter around a car, even if it's a nice sedan. Hey, I only get 100 miles on a charge, but I don't care because every night I recharge it. So I don't need a huge battery pack. You're going to start seeing those kind of different styles of cars coming out. But people that can't get easily to charge, and they live, you live in an apartment and stuff like that, and there's not charge stations for you, you're going to see us go to a hydrogen economy, because at some point you're not going to have enough battery power, and you're going to have to do you're going to have hydrogen tanks. So that's what I see coming. So basically you're going to see EV bit, and then you see hydrogen bit. And I don't care what the EV people tell you. Hydrogen long term is cheaper. Hydrogen is easier to crack, and you put a nuclear power plant up there and you start cracking water, you're gonna have all the hydrogen you want pretty damn cheap. Okay, and it's not intermittent, and there's already infrastructure for it too. You're just gonna go to a gas station and you're just gonna fill up your hydrogen, compressed hydrogen, and off you go. And it's safer than lithium battery bombs in your car too. So
yeah, and they could move to on-demand hydrogen, because I've had a few conversations with those that are doing on-demand hydrogen into the motors itself. So I totally concur that we're going to be moving to hydrogen pretty quickly here. There's a never-ending amount. We'd never run out of air.
No, and it turns into water.
So electrofuels are what they're trying to crack air. They'll take everything in from the CO2 and they'll break it down to the carbon and hydrogen, and using electrical charge to reassemble those to short chain or long chain liquids with the same principles. They call it electrofuels. So you can either crack the hydrogen with the electrolysis, or you can do it electrically through the air too, with the different molecules in the air. I mean, this can go a million different directions, and that's why I keep my pulse on that, because electrofuels and hydrogen on demand, are definitely
Yeah,
next steps
people
after that tank version.
people are going to find out really fast that you're not going to be able to get the cobalt from around the world into American batteries, and then you're going to have a different way of which you're going to manage your transportation grid. So we got to let these progressive people that live in a bubble that have no idea what's involved here. They just think because I want it, I'll get it. They have no idea. You have a coup in the Congo. I think that's where all the cobalt is. And you install a Chinese friendly, and they say, well, we're not selling to the Americans. Then what?
Yeah, the decentralized power, either be it for your home or in your car or something that doesn't take that long supply chain to get it. I mean, why are we, after I discovered electrofuels, that was the biggest light bulb. I heard about Tesla technologies and motors and magnetic field generation power. Okay. But coming to electrofuels where you just literally split a molecule apart into its base atoms and then reassemble them again to create what you want with a specific electric charge, which goes right along with Tesla principles. And I'm like, we've been lied to this whole time. Why did they ever put us on oil with all these wells, all these super tankers, all this environmental destruction from the oil spills when we could have pulled it directly out of the air? I'm still so shocked that we had the same technology 70 years ago to accomplish the same exact thing that we do today.
Yeah, well,
So,
it's not going to work.
decentralization has got to be the way it's going moving forward with everything.
Well, we need nuclear to be able to do it in mass. So that's unless you have enough nuclear power, it's not cheap enough to do electrofuels. So just not cheap enough. And hydrogen at your home, I know people that actually were part of a startup in that. They're just not getting approved because of the danger of explosions and fires in the house. So they're just not quite ready for prime time yet. Maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, you can have your own cracking hydrogen cracker in your house, but it's not there yet.
And you wonder how much legislation is pushing back on these sorts of steps forward, because it seems we're being railroaded right down this. And looking back now that California is at that 20-year mark with solar. So let me ask you about solar. With all the solar, that was installed 20 years ago, now it's coming to the end of its life. Like, where or how do they recycle those solar panels, and how much of it is recycled and reusable, and how much of it ends up as e-waste in a landfill somewhere?
I got solar panels on my roof that are 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have 85% productive. I put mine on in. So did I get the math right? I put mine on in 2006.
Yeah, because you had the company
So
at that time.
yeah, I owned a company. Yeah, so 2000. I still have the same inverter too. The inverter should have burned out 4 to 6 years ago. So 2026 is 20 years for me, and so we're 2022. Yeah, 16 years, no problem. I just was laughing to my wife. I've been running my air conditioner straight for 1 month. Okay, I only have solar for half. I put a brand new air conditioner heat pump in my house, highly efficient, and I have a 2,000 square foot house, and running it almost continuously for a month, I got an $80 electric bill. Okay,
Nice.
so my solar is still pumping out, and so what I'm doing next year is actually I'm gonna finish out. I still got quite a bit of square footage on my roof, and then I'm going to put actually a battery backup system in, so I can dodge the time of use charges that they throw at you. And plus, also, I want to have a grid, basically blackout free home. So if the grid goes down, I go down because I'm grid tied. But I'm going to put a battery backup system in that allows me to toggle. Well, it had an automatic toggle. So as soon as I see the sine wave coming in from SDG&E, it automatically flip me to batteries or flip me to the panels. So how it'll work is the solar that's coming into the house will first get used by the home. What doesn't get used will get shunted to the batteries. When the batteries are full, get shunted to the utility. And then when I have it on a timer, so when time of use kicks in, I don't take any power from SDG&E at all. I'll take it all from the solar panel and the battery, and then I'll at night when I go back, when it goes to load time, if I need to top off my batteries, I can flip it and fill my batteries up if I want to. Or more likely that I could just rely on the sun to refill my battery. I overproduce most of the time. So only in the summer, like only July and August. And I run the air conditioner because my wife runs a business out of here. And so we can't have a hot house. We have customers coming all the time. And so the house needs to be pristine, comfortable for people. So if it was just me, I wouldn't care so much. But it's but practical. And so that's what's coming next. Plus, I want to overproduce in case I want to go ahead and throw a dehumidifier system in and produce my own water.
So you're telling me that there's a different rate per different time of the day that you're charged?
3 different rates.
Okay.
And they expanded it. So they jam people coming home. See, what they're trying to do with the utilities is that they're saying, hey, we run on solar all day. So the systems overproduce for the utility during the day. So they don't need to do anything. But from 4 to 8 p.m., there's not enough solar. So they got to rely on secondary systems to produce the energy needed by the customer. So they charge you for that higher, basically standby energy. And so, so from 4 to 8 p.m., you pay what's called a shoulder rate, which is the highest rate of the day. And then after 8 p.m. to midnight, when the demand drops, they have to maintain a base load, Dave. So there's base load fossil fuels running in the utility. And then during the summertime, during the daytime, we're getting renewable energy from huge solar farms out here in the desert that are then bringing down you don't need as much standby energy. And then at night, you have to crank that standby energy up, so in the evening, I should say. So they charge you 3 different rates. So night rate, day rate, shoulder rate. Yeah. So I just want to be I only want to ever use them on the cheapest rate. And then if the system goes down, my home is powered. I can go off natural gas tomorrow if I put solar hot water in. So my heat pump's electric now too.
Say we do have a major disruption, then what kind of firms, companies, corporations will still weather it, because some certain areas will go down. A disruption globally for this could be another war started there. So just in an overall sense, you're looking out at the general market. What is something that would weather one of these catastrophic disruption events, do you think? Just general market. Now, I don't know. I'm not talking banking holiday where they're going to close all that, but something very disruptive on the war front and attack sort of thing like this. Through history, what has survived during these times that people might want to think about? There's a lot of lessons we can learn. I'm just trying to pick your brain on that one.
Well, it's different now because what people need that they can't get is that we're picking a fight with China right now. For whatever reason, the elites want to pick on China now. Is that China? You better get a backup of antibiotics, and you better get a backup of basically pain medicines. All that stuff is made in China, or the precursors are made in China, and so that's going to be the opportunity / the threat. So I was just joking with my wife. I need to buy 3,000 or 4,000 tablets of acetaminophen and Tylenol. Advil or the generic, or even aspirin, so you have it. And so China makes all that stuff. So we're picking a fight with a country that can just can shut down our healthcare system. We're just beyond stupid in this country. The people in charge of this country, are they doing it on purpose? Probably. To what end? But it's going to cause immense damage if if you're China, we have a lot of leverage on China too. So maybe it's mutually assured destruction, but you go 90 days without antibiotics in this country, they'll get people's attention.
And, you mentioned that. I've been learning, and we've harvested a bunch of what they call wild lettuce. So it's my first year to prepare my own wild lettuce. I wouldn't even say tincture, but it turns into more of like an elixir at the end of it. It's black, it's soupy, it's syrupy, but it's also what the Native Americans use for pain relief, but it just grows wild. You just have to know how to prepare it, take the leaves at what time to harvest it. And that's something to consider too. What would disappear and how greatly would it affect our society? I mean, because looking back in history on a couple of these charts I had, 25% of the population died off or wasn't functional for whatever reason, whether it was the plague of the war, the plague and the famines all overlapping, whatever it was. It only took 25% of the population not working where they lost records for those 10, 12 years, 1470s. Because a minimal disruption in population cascades for quite some time before it recuperates.
I think we're different this time because in the 1400s, the Black Plague basically then exasperated into famines because you didn't have laborers to farm the crops. You and I, if we had any general knowledge of robotics, can run a farm that could feed 1,000 people. So I think the people issue, and I think that's why these elites are like, we got to depopulate, because they I don't think they know what to do with all the people. They don't think they can figure out a meaningful life for these people. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just trying to understand part of their issues here. They don't want a bunch of hungry people running around looking for them.
That's how governments change every chapter of history. Hungry people running around, angry looking for the leaders.
Yeah, well, look at Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was a case study of, oh shit. So that's and that's not just there. Where was it also? Was it not Ecuador? Somewhere else they're chasing down. They're looking for Panama,
Nigeria.
Yeah,
Sudan. There's a whole bunch of countries that are starting to fall off now.
Yeah, so we have a surplus of people, so I don't think that in itself would cause economic issues, but it does cause economic issues in the sense we're debt-based systems, and it requires more slaves to plug into the system to drive basically the banking system was the same as the medieval farm system. So if you don't have enough farmers, which today, I mean, you don't have enough debtors today that have to work off the debt, then the banking system collapses. So that's why the people are freaking out about that, or doing a great reset, because the banks require. You look at China. China right now is on they're at max leverage of a banking system. You can't, you're at a point now where you've taken that deposit and you rehypothecated it 10 times. And so there's like nothing left to rehypothecate. And now the price of the assets have to continue to rise in order to pay off the depositors demanding their money. So it's basically like it's an inverted pyramid Jenga game, right? With a depositor down here at the bottom and the debt up here. And as people pull out their deposits, the Jenga falls over. And that's why you see the Federal Reserve here gave the banks all this cash. They just gave them cash. They said, don't lend it out. We'll pay you interest on it. That's why you've seen this reserve repos, right? So they gave the banks $2 trillion out of thin air. They just wished it into existence, with the understanding is they'll give it to the banks, so the banks have base money, so they don't care if they have depositors anymore. We have banking systems today that don't care if you have a deposit or not, okay? Because the Federal Reserve winked it into existence. And then what they tell the bank is, don't lend that out. I'll give you a guaranteed rate of return on money that you never had to find. And so the banks they're bringing in $100 billion a year around the world. The United States taxpayer pays that interest. That comes off the profit of the Federal Reserve, which gets sent to the Treasury. So so that's how that system works. So, the lending collapses, and they have to keep feeding the system with more deposits, which eventually causes inflation at some point. I'm talking about of the hyper kind. So the banks don't need depositors anymore, right? The manufacturers don't need employees anymore. The farmers don't need farm workers anymore. And I'm talking about on the margin, in general, not mom and pop. Hey, you always need a couple people, right? But you can only pay them so much, right? You know as well as anybody, there's only a certain wage you can pay to make it not worth it for you to have that person on your farm, right? So I was talking to the bagel guys. They can't take vacation because they hired somebody to manage the store while they're gone. They don't make any profit. So, so you get stuck in these environments where you can only grow so much. But when you get this big, it's all automated. Okay, and they don't even make their own bagels anymore. They boil and bake them, but they have they're part of a franchise. The franchise has automated systems for that. You know, or they'd have to hire a couple more people to make so all this stuff gets automated out. So there's really cool companies out there that have automation that as we go into the shitter here, they're going to make some good money.
Yeah, and what kind of
But
sector
yeah,
would you?
yep,
Obviously, in the robotics sector, but are they listed on a publicly listed company where
yep,
you can
yep,
invest
yep,
into?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But that's a tease. You have to join us. I'll give it to you.
TradeLikeAGenius.com. Head on
Yep,
over.
yep.
And then,
Got to
Bob,
run.
one last question. Okay, going in, you see things kind of unraveling at the seams here. So, what would take its place in terms of if we run through the debt system and it needs to be reset? So, what might something reset into as a medium of exchange that could start a new monetary system?
Well, they're not gonna. I heard they'll probably go back onto some sort of modified gold system.
Okay.
So that's why the central banks over the last 20 years have been just buying up gold again. So what I'm told will happen is that, and this is not my idea, so I'm just regurgitating. It has merit, so I'll share it. Is that countries are eventually the dollar will lose its reserve currency status in the sense for um, for settlements, okay, for oil, but it'll still be the reserve currency because it's a stable currency in the sense of everybody else's out there. But people will start like, and Russia has caused the issues, right? So you now are settling in rubles, right? So you have countries now that aren't settling oil in dollars anymore with Russia. They're settling it in rubles. So eventually you get to the point where you, as a country, you're going to have a gold reserve, and you're going to have to make up the difference between your current account surplus versus your energy deficit. And that's where gold's going to start moving around. And it's going to be, there'll probably a gold. I would see at some point there'll be a digital gold back system out there where you don't have to move the physical around, but you'll move your tokens around. And
Pax
and, and those,
gold.
those will be fungible. And so that's what I see coming. And you're going to see more and more countries, if energy prices keep going higher. You'll see more and more countries are going to be forced to settle because Russia doesn't care if they get it in euros, they get it in rubles. They just don't want it in dollars. Okay, they'll take it in gold too. And so people are going to start settling in their own currencies. Okay, or the currency of the guy who's producing it. Now, interesting thing about the United States, we're still the largest producer of energy in the world. So everybody thinks, oh, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just a political decision on our part. We can open California tomorrow and blow the world apart. We're the largest producer of natural gas in the world. We probably have the largest coal reserves in the world. It's all a matter of political will here. So if things get dicey enough and things get expensive enough, they'll dig that stuff out of the ground. I guarantee you.
Excellent advice to try to look for the future. I do thank you for watching today. Hope you got something out of our conversation. I've been here with Bob Kudla, TradeLikeAGenius.com. Make sure you head over there, check out what they have, what we talked about today, bundled specials, and just the wealth of information that's available. There's ways that people do see the future, but Bob seems to have a crystal ball that's bent around the corner that reflects off in front of the corner. There's definitely something further out in the quote unquote time space that he sees versus others. So until next time, Bob, any closing words for us?
No, just opportunities are everywhere, my friend. So, don't fret, find them.
The best advice ever. All right. Bye for now.